Good afternoon, welcome to Rundlii Gaming. So we're going to be doing another game. This one is called King of Tokyo. This was made by Richard Garfield. This is by Iello Games, I-E-L-L-O. So a fairly big company as far as different games that they've made in the past. And what you're looking at here is pretty much all the components, for the most part, of King of Tokyo. And first you'll come with a board for King of Tokyo. This has 2 spaces on it and some small details here. The Tokyo City, because it supports up to 6 players, is if you're playing with 1 to 4 players, you just play with Tokyo City. If you have 5 or 6 players left in the game, you also have Tokyo Bay. There will also be some information out here, which is if someone goes into Tokyo, they gain 1 victory point. If they stay in Tokyo and they are still there when it comes back to their turn, they gain 2 additional victory points. They cannot use hearts, which we'll explain later, while in Tokyo Bay. Or Tokyo City, for that matter. Now, you'll have these really big, bulky dice, and they have 6 different sides on it. They have a 1, they have a 2, they have a 3. They also have like a lightning bolt thing here, a heart, and a claw. The game itself is very push your luck-ish. Your goal is to either get 20 victory points or kill every other monster on the board before you die. And as you do that, you'll be rolling these dice. And pretty much what happens from here is, with the different sides here, the numbers, you need 3 of a kind for them to actually matter. So if you have 3 ones, you will get 1 victory point. For every additional 1, you get 1 more point. So that's similar to if you have 3 2s. So let's say if you have a set of 2s, you'll get 2 victory points. For every additional 2, you get an additional point. The same thing goes for the 3s. If you have 3 3s, you get 3 victory points. For an additional 3, you get an additional point. So let's say if you have 6 3s, you get 3 victory points for the base 3, then 1 for each of the 3s afterward. So let's say if we had 5 3s, you'll get 3 victory points plus 2. So 5 total. As I said, it only takes 20 victory points to win if you're going to go the victory point route. So you get some victory points for going into Tokyo, some with these. Next thing we're going to look at are the player boards here. And these are mostly just to keep count of different things on there. And they have like a little dial on the back, so you can actually rotate like what your health is, what your victory points is. You start out at 0 victory points, which is the star. And then you have 10 hit points, which is your total life. Now this particular character is the Cyber Bunny, which will be annotated by this guy here. And once you hit 0 hit points, you are killed and are no longer in the game itself. So that's pretty much what you'll be using these for. It just kind of helps you figure out where everyone's currently at. Another thing is, as you play through, you're going to get different cards. So you have this really big deck here of different abilities that could come out. Now, since we already went over the numbers on the dice itself, now we're going to go over the other 3 things. So we have hearts. Hearts cannot be used when in Tokyo or Tokyo Bay. Well, Tokyo City or Tokyo Bay. You gain 1 hit point back for each of these dice. So if you have 6 hearts, you can gain 6 hit points back. Attack, you do 1 damage to the appropriate group that you're damaging, which we'll go over a little bit more of that once we go into that part of the game. Lastly, we have energy. Energy comes with these little, cubes here. They're just like little tiny green plastic cubes. And then that's the dice itself. Now, how the dice actually work is you get to do 3 total rolls. So let's say I rolled all these dice. I want to keep these to electricity. I get 2 more rerolls in addition to what I've rolled so far. So let's say I want to roll again. I'll take another energy. And then the rest of my dice. So on the last roll, I get to keep whatever I have currently. So in this particular roll, I have 1, 2, I have a heart, I have a claw, and I have 3 electricity. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 3 cubes, and from there, I'm already at full health, so I don't actually need the health, because let's say if we just started, then we're going to go with that for now. The 2 does not do anything, because I don't have 3 of a kind. So since I don't have 3 of a kind, it won't actually help me. Since we just started the game, I'm going to start off with a Kraken. So since I actually did a hit, at the start of the game, if there's no one currently in Tokyo, I will end up taking Tokyo. Now, since I have 3 energy, I can now spend these on different upgrades. So we have 3 upgrade cards here. There are going to be 2 main attributes when it deals with these particular cards, is whether or not it is a keep card or if it's a discard card. Now with the discard card, this costs me 7 electricity, which will be in the top left corner. When I get this card, I discard it. All other monsters lose 5 victory points. So if I want to try to avoid someone else from getting close to winning right now, this might be a good way to slow them down a little bit. The next one here is fire breathing. This will cost me 4 electricity. Your neighbors take 1 extra damage when you deal damage. So if I deal damage to someone, it deals an additional damage to that. It costs me 4, however I only have 3, so I cannot buy that either. 6 energy for this one, which is Reflective Hide. If you suffer damage, the monster that inflicted the damage suffers 1 as well. So pretty much if I get hit by someone else, they take a damage as well. So it's kind of useful for that. And there's an entire deck of these. So it's a very large deck of different abilities, and they're all very different. This can be anything from getting additional dice, because there's like these kind of bright green dice here. And some of these cards will actually give you more dice. One actually gives you more permanent health, like you can go up to 12 health instead of 10, which will be on your dial itself. Some other examples is Mimic. You can use upgrades that other people have by spending an energy. So let's say if you have fire breathing, I currently have Mimic, I can then duplicate your fire breathing and I can actually use that ability. It has a child. If you're eliminated, discard all your cards and lose all your victory points, heal at 10, and start again. So it's kind of like a 1-up, I guess, if you want to, say that. So it's kind of like if you die, you get to start all over again, though you reset everything that you currently have. Regeneration. When you heal 1 extra damage. So this might be a good defensive card if you want to keep yourself alive a little bit. Or Alpha Monster. You gain 1 victory point whenever you attack. So if I attack, I get a victory point. There's also other discard cards. For example, I gain 5 victory points, but I take 4 damage because of it. So that's a very big amount of victory points, and if you're really close to winning, that can be very beneficial also. So there are quite a bit of different cards, and they all have very different abilities. So I mean, the amount of stuff you could do in this game is quite a bit. And the thing is, you're probably not going to even play with half this deck, so the next time you play might be a very different game. And some of these abilities are definitely more powerful than others. It kind of just depends on which ones you find. Sometimes they combo really well. As an example, if you have fire breathing and reflective shield or reflective hide, if I suffer damage, the monster that inflicted damage suffers 1 as well. And then with fire breathing, my neighbors take 1 damage whenever I deal damage. So the reflective hide, they hit me, and then I hit both my neighbors with the damage on top of whoever hit me. This can be very powerful very quickly because it definitely flips things up quite a bit. There are a couple other things you can do with this too. You can spend 2 energy and it'll actually wipe this board. So if there's an upgrade that someone else might get really soon, you want to get rid of it, spend 2 energy, it'll wipe the board. Otherwise, that's most of the upgrades itself. Now, how damage is actually inflicted is... Now, earlier, if you recall, I took over Tokyo City. So now Kraken is currently in Tokyo City. And Gigasar is currently outside, as well as Cyber Bunny. So both of them are currently outside the game right now, or outside of the city. Now what's going to happen is, let's say Gigasar here, he's going to do an attack now. He rolls, and let's say he gets 3 attacks, 2 energy, and a 2. What he's going to do is he's going to deal 3 damage to anyone that's in Tokyo. So if you're in Tokyo Bay, let's say with a larger group of players, then you're going to do damage to both of them. Since it's a 3-player game right now, he's only going to deal damage to the Kraken, and the Kraken himself will take 3. After he takes his damage, he can decide to yield Tokyo. So let's say Kraken says, well, that's a lot of damage, I don't want to, for taking that damage. He loses 3 hit points, and now Gigasar takes charge, and he is now in there. So at this point, it's going to be everyone on the outside versus the person on the inside, and the inside versus everyone on the outside. Let's say, though, he did not actually yield. So Kraken says, okay, well, 3 damage, that's fine, I'm going to wait it out. So he takes his 3 damage, and at this point, Cyber Bunny will attack. Let's say he got 2 2s, 1 attack, 1 heart, a 1, and a lightning bolt. So not a very productive turn, but he does 1 damage to the Kraken. Again, he gets the option, do I want to leave Tokyo? Because at this point he'd be at 6 health, which you can basically annotate it by the little dial here. And the Kraken's like, well, no, I want to stick with it. I'm going to wait it out. So at this point, the Kraken is, now it's his turn. Since he stayed inside of Tokyo and it made it back to his turn, he gains 2 victory points just because he stayed in there for that long. Now, let's say that he rolled this initially. He has 2 claws, a heart. Now remember, inside of Tokyo, hearts don't actually help you. A lightning bolt, which you could use for energy, and 2 3s. Now I could re-roll the heart and maybe the electricity if I chose to maybe get another 3 for additional victory points, or I could re-roll the 3s to get more claws or more energy. So in this case, we got 2 more energy, a 3 and a 1. So let's say I don't really like that roll either, so last roll. Alright, so in this case, we have 2 2s. That won't do us any good because we don't have 3 of a kind. We have 1 heart, doesn't do any good, he's in Tokyo. And then we have 3 claws. Now, how it works for the person in Tokyo is that he's now going to attack everyone on the outside. Since it's a 3-player game, he's going to hit Gigasar, and then he's going to hit Cyber Bunny. And they're both going to take 3 points of damage. Now, sometimes upgrades, as I said, could add more to that, but at the very least, they are taking 3 damage. At the end of the turn is when you do your buying phase. So let's say if he did get a bunch of energy, he could then choose to buy one of your items here. That is the sum of most of the game. This game usually runs, I want to say, about 20 to 30 minutes. I've seen some games last longer, some games are a little bit shorter. It depends on how much out for blood each of the players are. If everyone pushes their luck a lot, people are going to die very quickly. If everyone plays very defensively, you're not going to see people die quite as fast, but you're going to see probably a lot more upgrades. if everyone plays a lot more defensively until someone finally gets something really crazy and then starts killing people. Because you can do anything from like poisoning people to, like I believe there's a Holy Nova in here, which deals whatever damage you do to all other players regardless of where you're at. So for example, I could be on the outside. When I do damage, it hits everybody at the table, regardless of where I'm at. So the upgrades themselves definitely make the game very unique and make it very different. As far as components go, the deck itself, they're kind of like, they're kind of like playing cards. Like if you play, things like Magic or, Magic the Gathering or any kind of card game, they're fairly decent cards. They're not going to get torn up quite as quickly. So the components are all pretty good. The dice are nice and sturdy. They're really good for just throwing around. Usually I use the top and the bottom of the box, and that helps to kind of keep the dice where you need them to be. Otherwise, that is King of Tokyo. That's the rundown of kind of how to play it and a lot of different mechanics in the game itself. So I hope you enjoyed watching the review here, and we'll go to my final thoughts. Alright, so that is the game of King of Tokyo. As I said, it's a Richard Garfield game, which he's made quite a few different games, and it's a pretty good game. It's definitely very much a push-a-luck type game. It does have, big monsters. It kind of reminds me of like your old Rampage type game where you're running around blowing stuff up and beating other people up. Comes with a lot of like random tokens, big monster cards, really cool upgrades. So it definitely depends on your type of game, but this is definitely a very good kind of in-between game if you don't want to play something really lengthy, but you also don't want to play anything really short like a filler game. So definitely a lot of fun. I hope you've enjoyed the review itself, and thank you for watching Rundlii Gaming. You have a good day.